The wine, this is called Qupé. That's the name of the winery. It's owned by this guy named Bob Lindquist. Qupé Winery, we have this hard, fast rule that we sell no wines that are like at Beverages and More and Costco and Gelston's and Ralph's and Vaughn's and fucking Rite Aid and whatever. Walgreens, Cost Plus. There's a few other ones out there. Safeway. Well, there's a lot of grocery chains all over the country. So no grocery store wine. We make one exception. We sell the wines of Qupé. Qupé is a winery that has a lot of different wines. They're all little bits and pieces. But the best of Qupé is some of the best wine made in California. So I'll tell the Qupé story is it's kind of like a hyper-organic story of how this winery started. Qupé is owned by this guy named Bob Lindquist. Bob Lindquist moved to California in 1965 or 1963. One of those years that the Dodgers. Kim, what year did the Dodgers win the World Series? 63 or 65? All right, they won them all. All right, so the first either 63 or 65. That year the Dodgers won the World Series. That was Bob Lindquist's first year living in California. Lifelong Dodger fan, which would influence him throughout the rest of his life, and he's still alive. So in like 1968, he was going to college at UC Irvine. He started to drink. He drank wine for the first time, and then he started hanging out this place called High Time Cellars in Costa Mesa. So hanging out there, drinking wine in the 60s. 1970 rolls around. 1970 rolls around. He decides he wants to go work up in the Central Coast of California at some other wine shop. Like 1973 rolls around, and he decides that he wants to start working in a winery. 1979 rolls around, he decides, I'm going to get in this and I want to start making wine. The whole time that he was doing all this stuff, coincidentally, he was like, they formed this crew of guys. And this crew, like everything, there's always crews of people that kind of come up together. And these guys that came up together were like this guy named Bob Lindquist, a guy named Jim Clendenin, who owns like Aubon, Clement, ABC, the guy named John Aubin, who owns Aubin Vineyards, the guys that own this winery called Zaca Mesa. All these dudes were kind of rolling together, drinking wine and doing whatever else they were doing in the 1970s. And there's probably so much stuff to do in the 1970s that I'm 34 now that I probably wouldn't have lived to be this long if I lived in the 1970s. But they were doing all the stuff they were doing in the 70s, and Bob decides in 1979 he's going to trade time for a bunch of empty barrels, buy some grapes, and make some wine. So he started off, he made like 400 cases of Chardonnay, and as time went on, him and these other guys planted vineyards. They planted this very famous vineyard called Bien Nacido. Bien Nacido is probably the most important vineyard between here and Napa Valley. And they started, yes! And they decided they were going to start making wine. So Qupé was born in 1979. Since then, Bob Lindquist is probably one of the most successful guys in the California wine business. Is still not an arrogant prick. He has nothing but nice things to say about people. When he first came to our store 8 years ago when it opened, he just found out that April and I at that time were living in Chinatown. He said, perfect, I can stay at your house and go to all the Dodger games. We can just walk there. I said, cool, man, whatever. And then, so about 5 years ago, he planted some grapes up in Edna Valley, which is like 7 clicks south of San Luis Obispo, and he's been doing all this organically and biodynamically since then. This is the inaugural first release of the Sawyer Lindquist's vineyard. Sawyer Lindquist was Bob's mother, who was passed away many years ago, but he wanted to kind of pay homage with the wine for her. 100% Syrah, farmed organically and biodynamically, and basically what he did was he made like the vineyards. He says this is all from block 1 because there's only one block. A block is basically what they call like a square of grapes. So grape square that are growing are called blocks. He's like this. We only have one block, so I just call it all block 1. So this is from block 1, and he made like. So you take grapes, you press them, you make the wine, it goes into barrels, right? So he had like 15, 20 barrels, I think he had 18 barrels. He has 18 barrels, and he walked through there and he tried all the wines from these 18 barrels. He said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 out, 8 in. So he picked 8 barrels and 8 barrels only. The best 8 barrels to go into the Edna Valley Sawyer Lindquist Syrah. So 2008, same vintage as the last one you had. The one before that was 07 and 08 to begin with the French stuff. But now what we've done is we've kind of gone from the very beginning with the French to the kind of earthy, funky, brown hair, brown skin, Spanish-speaking Chilean guy to these super smart, hyper intelligent, smart chick guy from Washington State. to like one of the original guys from California who makes some of the best wine and some of the absolute nicest guys you ever meet. You guys can go to the Central Coast. Bob Lindquist Qupé has a winery and tasting room. I encourage you to go there. He is super, super nice. So thank you guys for coming. The last thing today that Matthew made was what?